Hi, and welcome back to Mingus on Tech. I'm Ken Mingus, Executive Editor at Computer World. I'm here with Lucas Mirian, Senior Writer at Computer World. We're here to talk about mobile device management. It's all about the acronyms. Stick around. All right, Lucas, thanks for sticking around. The reason I wanted to have you on the show today is to talk about something you're just now diving into, and that's the MobileBeat, mobile device management. It's something that's been around for a few years, ever since the whole bring your own device trend started back, well, thanks Apple, thanks to the iPhone. And companies suddenly realized that they had a lot of devices coming into the workplace with a lot of corporate data perhaps going out the door, and they had to figure out how to protect them. So, you know, that leads to the, as you said, the alphabet soup of mobile device management, mobile application management, the others.
Enterprise mobility management.
And the UEM,
unified endpoint management. Yeah.
Lots of acronyms to learn here. So anyway, what I want to do is find out kind of where we are right now, how we got to where we are, and where we are, and what companies are looking to do, you know, over the next several years, I guess.
Sure. So about 4 or 5 years ago, as you well know, I was covering consumerization of IT, which included mobile device management. It was fairly nascent technology that people were implementing. I would go to these user conferences. I talked to end users about this. And the problem with that was that, number one, these companies were buying 100% licenses for mobile device management. So they were buying licenses for all their employees, and then they'd use a small percentage of them just for their executives.
Okay. So not everybody, basically they were overbuying. They were spending money they didn't need to spend for licenses.
Exactly. Not everybody was signing on to it, and IT didn't want to manage them all, and they ended up, and so the CFO would say, hey, yo, what's up with paying all this?
The money?
Hey, the money. So they weren't using all of them. And then on top of that, when we did deploy it, when they allowed a BYOD policy for employees, they would have to outline some of the strict measures that they would take if an employee lost their phone or they left the company.
Right.
And that often included wiping all the data on the device.
Well, and that's the problem, because if you've got mom's pictures in your photo album on your phone, and you decide to leave the company or you lose the phone or something, suddenly all of mom's photos are gone.
Very unpopular. It was a very unpopular policy. In fact, there were some lawsuits that made it into civil courts about that. I don't think anything ever went the way of the plaintiff, in the case the end user, saying, hey, you wiped my phone, because they did sign these policies.
Right.
But it still made it in court, and there was a chilling effect from that on users, on IT managers. So then we came, then comes along after mobile device management. Then you have something far more specific, and that's mobile applications management. So instead of managing the entire device of an employee, they're just managing the applications, the business applications, and the data associated with those business applications. So if they leave, or they can put policies on that device so that you can't copy or cut and paste enterprise data to other applications. It's containerized, it's kept secure, and then if the person leaves the company or loses the phone, they can wipe just the applications and the content.
Okay. And is that software that would then be installed on each device, or is it just that the apps that the company would roll out with its own data would have those rules in place to protect it and allow the company to wipe it?
It's usually agent-based.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're remotely managed, but it's agent-based software.
Okay, so we went from managing the device.
BYOD.
BYOD
and MDM.
For us. BYOD, which then led to the need for enterprise mobility management broadly.
Which is more encompassing. Yeah. So you have both, plus containerization of the corporate data.
Okay, so then we had the device, then we had the apps, and now what I'm seeing is the new acronym is Unified
Endpoint Management.
Endpoint Management, because of course we need more acronyms around this. Tell me what that is. You were talking about a user who said he's got multiple consoles, or
well, he's and promise not to identify, but basically it's a user that right now has 3 separate consoles to manage, let's say, his AirWatch software for mobile devices. He has another one, AirSync, for server and Linux and his AS400 mainframe systems.
Okay.
And then he also has to manage his IoT endpoints.
That's right. I hadn't thought about that. With IoT now, you've got all kinds of like data that's floating around out there potentially.
Exactly. So he's got 3 different admins. He's got multiple people, by the way, managing all those endpoints. So it's a huge cost
The
center
problem
for
is
him.
you can't scale up fast enough to stay in line with the data that's coming in. It's growing so fast.
Yeah, exactly. So what unified endpoint management?
Say that 3 times fast. You can't do it, can you?
What unified endpoint management does? UEM does is it pulls them all under one umbrella, and Windows 10 actually offers some form of that, although it doesn't cover everything. Microsoft recognized that this is an up-and-coming trend. It's still nascent out there, and there are other non-platform vendors like AirWatch that are offering some form of this as well. But you're going to see this maturing over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know you also had a story, I think, up yesterday about Windows 10, and given the way that Microsoft is doing it as Windows as a service, where it continually gets updated with big feature upgrades, not just security updates. At least twice a year.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all of these companies that are going to be moving to Windows 10 or maybe have already moved there, trying to figure out how to also do these updates and keep track of all the devices and the data.
Yeah.
And so Microsoft had built in some tools that were designed to at least get companies started.
Right.
But from your story, it's clear that those tools are not enough, and that third-party apps and software are still going to be necessary for the time being. Right?
Yeah, it's still maturing, but I think you're going to see Microsoft add in the applications it's missing now that it can't manage. On top of that, the kind of cool thing about Windows 10 is that it allows you as an enterprise to choose when you want to do those feature upgrades.
Right.
So, for example, one of the problems with enterprise mobility management is that when you're updating devices, when you're bringing in new updates or what am I thought flaws, security patches, it eats up a lot of your bandwidth.
Right.
And you're trying to send it out to all these devices, and your bandwidth in the first place was not designed to handle that.
Right.
This is something that's relatively new. So users are often talking about the fact that their bandwidth is getting eaten up. So they can then schedule these updates when they believe they'll have more bandwidth or during downtimes.
Yeah. It's interesting, we're just out of yesterday's WWDC keynote, and I was listening for anything in iOS 11 along these lines. Didn't hear anything, not a surprise, because that the keynote tends to be aimed at the developers, but I want to see if Apple has anything built in, because it does have some management tools built in the operating system. But we'll have to check back on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so now we know its acronyms are US, BYOD, EMM, MDM, MAM, and UEM. I think we pretty much covered the...
I was in the military. I thought they invented all the acronyms. Now I think it's the technology sector.
I can't wait to see what's next.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, thanks for the update. I really appreciate the information. We'll be revisiting this over the course of the next few months to see what's coming. Thanks, Lucas.
My pleasure.
For now, that's a wrap.